What is going on, everybody? How is everybody doing? Today, for this video, I will be making my NCAA March Madness 2023 bracket. So, here we go. Let's get started. In the South region, the one seed is Alabama. They're going to be playing one of the first four teams, Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, or SMO. I don't know who SMO is, but it doesn't really matter because Alabama, led by Brandon Miller and Noah Clowney, is going to beat whoever this is by at least 20 points when the tournament opens up on, I think they play Thursday, right? It doesn't even say. But it shouldn't matter because whoever they play is not going to be able to keep up with them on offense, and Alabama should just get an easy win there. Next up, we have the 8-seeded Maryland versus the 9-seeded West Virginia. And I have seen a lot of people that are not very high on Maryland, and I am not either. Maryland is really decent on offense. They are led by Jameer Young, a former smaller school player, I think at College of Charleston. Then he transferred to Maryland. He had a pretty good run there. And so for West Virginia, though, their defense is just so good, and they have good scorers like Eric Stevenson and everyone. And I don't think Maryland will be able to keep up with them. If you look at Maryland's college basketball reference, then you can see here that they were 21-12 and only 11-9 in the Big Ten. And me personally, I don't think that the Big Ten was that good this year. I think that all the teams that made it to the tournament out of them are not going to really do that well. They have Jameer Young. Like I said, he's really good. But other than him, they just don't have enough scoring, I think. And West Virginia's defense will hold them probably to under 40 points or 50 points. So West Virginia moves on. Next up, we have San Diego State versus Charleston. And Charleston, I don't know hardly anything about. I just know that they won their conference, so they had an automatic bid to the tournament. And I know that San Diego State has some of the best guards in the country. It's College of Charleston, okay. So San Diego State should easily win this game. I just want to take a look at Charleston. They were 31-3. Their losses were to good schools. They were to North Carolina by 40. Who is this? Hofstra by 4 and Drexel by 1. And I've never heard of any of these people except for this guy, Dalton Bullen. And I know he's a really good scorer. He was decent in their conference play. I just don't think that they have anything that would help them beat San Diego State. Because if you take a look at San Diego State, you can see that they are led by great forwards. They had a great record this year, 27-6. Their star player, yes, I didn't know if he was still on the team, so I don't want to mention his name, but Matt Bradley, 13 points, 4 rebounds, and 2 assists. They also have Jaden Ledee. I think he was formerly in the Big 12, if I remember correctly. They have a good guard, Darian Trammell. I think this should be maybe the easiest game in the entire bracket for anyone in the first round. I'm not very high. I don't know what's happening. I'm not very high on San Diego State, but I think that they should easily be able to beat Charleston in a first round matchup. Next up, we have Furman and Virginia. And this computer's really lagging right now. So we had Alabama winning. We had West Virginia winning. So Furman and Virginia. Virginia has a good offense, but they are really small. And also, Kia Clark, whatever his name is, he is like 5'11". He is great at passing the ball, but I feel like Virginia's scoring won't be good enough to carry them to a win in this game. You have Jalen Slauson and Mike Bothwell on Furman. I watched their conference championship game. Slauson was going crazy. And Virginia just doesn't average many points, and they were in a very weak conference in the ACC. I could see them winning this game, or I could see them losing this game, but I think that Furman has a chance to upset there, so I will go with Furman with the victory. This next one, NC State and Creighton, should not be very hard for anyone. Creighton is led by Ryan Kalkbrenner, whatever his name is, and South Dakota State transfer Baylor Shireman. Shireman was amazing last year in the tournament as a breakout player. He is now their starting small forward for the Blue Jays, and I don't know hardly anyone on North Carolina State. They have Jarkel Joyner. I know Terquavion Smith is a first round draft pick potentially, but he needs a good tournament to turn around his draft stock, be a first round pick, and I just don't see them beating Creighton in this game. 6 versus 11 seed. Creighton is so good on defense with Shireman, a very athletic wing, and Ryan Kalkbrenner, whatever his name is. He is extremely good as well as a big man, and I could see him going in the first. I didn't mean to do that. I could see him going in the first round of the NBA draft if he has a strong tournament. And then so Creighton, they are led by a very good roster. If you see right here, yes, I mentioned Ryan Kalkbrenner. I mentioned Baylor Shireman. Arthur Kaluma is a guy that I forgot about. He's a 6'7" wing. And then Trey Alexander, their sophomore guard. I don't think that there is a world where North Carolina State can pull off the upset here. I think Creighton is not as good as I may think, but they should be able to beat North Carolina State. Next up, we have Baylor and UC Santa Barbara. This should be the easiest game ever for Baylor. They won the national championship 2 years ago. Of course, the roster is not even close to the same. They lost Davion Mitchell. They lost Jared Butler. They lost Mark Vidal. They lost, I don't even remember who else was on that team. But now they have a new set of guards and wings. That is what their offense is run off of, is their guards and their small forward. Keontae George is their shooting guard, Adam Flagler their small forward, and LJ Cryer their point guard. That is what carries this team on offense and defense. That is the reason this team is so good. They did bad against top 25 schools, but UC Santa Barbara did not even play a top 25 school. Baylor, I feel like the Big 12 is without a doubt the best conference in the NCAA, and they went 5-5 against teams in the top 25. So Baylor should be able to get the win there easily, and perhaps even beat Creighton in the second round, but we will go over that later. Now we have Missouri and Utah State. Missouri led by I forgot who's on there. Oh, they have the guy from Clemson, Noah Honor or Nick Honor, whatever his name is. He's pretty good. He's their point guard. They have Demoy Hodge, Kobe Brown. This team is a well-built team, but I just don't know if with their depth as poor as it is, I don't know if they'll be able to beat or to go a long ways in the NCAA tournament. They are playing Utah State, who I don't know much about this year. I know last year they were a pretty decent team in their conference and everything. I think they're in the West Coast Conference. No, Mountain West. Okay. So if you look at their roster, they have Stephen Ashworth. He's a 6'1" guard. I don't know him at all. So this team is interesting. They have, it looks like, some good scorers, but then it just drops off to these guys. I need to know a little bit more about their defense, maybe, but I still don't know if they would be able to beat Missouri in this matchup. Their defense, their opponent points per game is 70, but Missouri is 75. The SEC is the second best conference in basketball, then the Big East, then the Big Ten, I think, then the ACC, then the Pac-12. So I think Missouri should be able to win this game. I know Utah State's going to get picked a lot as the upset team, but they just didn't beat the guys that they should have beat. They didn't beat San Diego State. They lost 3 times. They won and lost against Nevada. They beat Oral Roberts by 10, and they won against New Mexico twice. Then if you look at Missouri, they beat Tennessee twice, but they lost to Bama twice. They lost to Kansas by 28. They lost to A&M twice, and they beat Iowa State by 17. That's interesting. This game could go either way, but I think I'm changing my mind. If Missouri lost to Kansas, they lost to Bama, they lost to everyone else, I think Utah State can win that game. Utah State, who did they beat? They lost to San Diego State 3 times, but they beat Boise, they beat Nevada once, they beat Roberts, they beat New Mexico. Yeah, I have the upset there. Utah State over Missouri. Next, you have Arizona and Princeton. I don't even know who Princeton ever has. I've never paid attention to the Ivy League. Senior forward Tosan Evbonwoom. Yeah, I've never heard of him, but it doesn't matter. Arizona, and one of my other brackets was my favorite to win the championship. I feel like no one else is going to think that. I feel like everyone else is going to have Arizona as a Sweet 16 or Elite 8 team, and then they'll be out. But I feel like with their depth and their wings, they have, I forgot his name, as Wallace Tubelis as their power forward. They have Umar Ballo as their center. Kerr Krissa as their point guard or a backup point guard. I don't know who else. I gotta take a look at their roster. But yeah, it should not. If Princeton scores 20 points in that game, it'll be a miracle. Because they are just not a team that should be able to hold up against Arizona, who was in the top of the NCAA all throughout the year. They finished 8th in the AP poll. They are led by Pell Larson, Courtney Ramey, he was a former Texas guy, Cedric Henderson. Yeah, that team is really deep, and I feel like with their wing depth and everything, they should be able to make a deep run into at least the Final Four. Next up, we have the East region, and to start us off, we have the 1 seed Purdue versus Fairleigh Dickinson or Texas Southern. So for this game, Purdue led by Zach Edey and the brother of the former Michigan State point guard. I think the Michigan State point guard was Foster Lawyer. I don't remember this guy's name. But Purdue, that's an easy dub for them. Next up, we have Memphis versus Florida Atlantic. Florida Atlantic was 31-3. That's really good. But Memphis beat Houston, but they didn't have Marcus Sasser. But they have Kendrick Davis, a former SMU player. He was really good this year. Let's see what his stats were. But he was really good. I've been following him for a little while. I know he's been good for at least the last 3 years. So if you look at his stats, I think he averaged like 25 points per game this year. 22, 3.7 rebounds, and 5.6 assists. He used to play for TCU, then SMU, then Memphis. What's so good about Kendrick Davis is no one ever, me personally, when he went from SMU to Memphis, I knew he was going to be good because he was good in the same conference. Then he transferred in conference. I think they're in the same conference. Yeah, they're in the same conference. Then he transferred in conference. I didn't think he would be as good because he was going to a better school that would play better talent before conference play. But then he came to Memphis and he started going crazy. He's 5'11", so that's why I was doubting him the most. But now he has proven himself to be one of the best NBA draft prospects this year, to be in the second round, late second round. He's just a really good player, and I feel like he will be able to help Memphis beat FAU here in the first round. If my bracket will ever load back up. There we go. So where were we? Yes, Memphis over FAU. Next, we have Duke versus Oral Roberts, and I know everyone is saying that Oral Roberts cannot beat them, even the experts, the bracket experts, people that have had great brackets before. But I love Oral Roberts in this game. They have Max Amos, another short point guard here in a smaller school, 22 points per game. I think last year he averaged even more, 25 points per game probably last year. Then they have former Arkansas big 7'5" Connor Vanover, who has more than 100 block shots this year. I love Oral Roberts in this game, but I don't know if they can pull off the upset. Duke is just so good. I feel like Oral Roberts would have done much better if they were up against Memphis or if they were up against Marquette even. But they just got the 12 seed. They got unlucky. This is Max Amos' super senior year. I think Connor Vanover is a senior, but if you do look at their stats for Oral Roberts, never mind, it's not going to work right now. Oral Roberts. That's not. But if you look at led by Coach Paul Mills, 30-4 this year, 18-0 in the Summit League. They are led by Max Amos, 6'1" point guard, 22 points per game. Vanover went crazy this year. He's also a senior, like I thought. Isaac McBride is that second guard, and then they have Carlos Jurgens, I think, slotted at the small forward. Who did they lose to this year? So they lost to St. Mary's by 8. They lost to Houston by a lot. They lost to Utah State. Now I'm starting to not believe in them anymore. Okay, yeah. I gotta go Duke. Duke with Kyle Filipowski. He broke out at the end of the year. They went on like a 10-game winning streak or something to end the year. I can't have them losing that game. Now Tennessee versus Louisiana. They lost to Kai Ziegler, I think, with a torn Achilles, maybe. And they slowed down a ton, but then at the very end of the year, they lost 6 of their last 10, but then in the SEC tournament, I think they won 1 or 2 games with Santiago Vescovi dominating for them. I know last year he was really good last year. This year he's stepping it up again. They have Josiah Jordan James on that team. They have some decent depth. And I like Louisiana in this matchup, but I just don't think I can vote against Tennessee in the first round to a 13 seed. Give me Tennessee versus Duke. That's a matchup I can see already happening. Tennessee and Duke in the second round. I can see Duke scoring a lot of points, but Tennessee maybe pulling out with the win potentially. They're more experienced in that second round matchup. I'm not sure. Next up, we have Kentucky versus Providence. This is the reason that I am going against Providence. They are 1-5 when they have lost the rebounding battle, and they will not win the rebounding battle against Oscar Tshiebwe. Oscar Tshiebwe has averaged like 15 rebounds per game for 5 years now, it seems like. If you look at his stats, Oscar Tshiebwe, I think he's a senior. He's averaging 13 rebounds per game this year. Last year, he averaged 15, then 8, then 9. He is such a good rebounder, and if Providence is 1-5 when they lose the rebounding battle, they are not going to win this game, I don't think. That's the whole reason I'm going against them right here. Not because they have less talent, which they might not, but nothing like that. Just because if you look at the statistics against rebounding teams, they do terrible. So give me Kentucky there. Next, we have Kansas State and Montana. And Montana is a sleeper team for me, but I don't think if Kansas State does better than they did in the in the Big 12 tournament when they were facing TCU and they lost with TCU not having Eddie Lampkin anymore, and Marquise Noel was trash. Keontae Johnson didn't show up, and their leading scorer was like Desi Sills or something. Raekwon Battle is amazing for Montana State, but it depends on if Kansas State can perform this year or this game. I don't know if they will be able to, but I will go for them, and we will just see. We'll have a Wildcat versus Wildcat second round matchup. Next up, we have Michigan State versus USC. I think this matchup happened in the first 4 games last year. I know Michigan State, or not, maybe 2 years ago. I know Michigan State was in the first 4 games, but I don't know if USC was. They were led by Tyson Walker and AJ Hoggard this year and Malik Hall, that really good big 3. Then USC has Boogie Ellis as their point guard and Drew Peterson as their wing. That team is so underrated. USC is. I know Michigan State was really good, but like I said earlier, I am not high on the Big Ten teams. I don't think that they will do good this year. They haven't ever really done very good in the past in tournaments, as far as I can remember. But if you look at USC, this year they were 22-10. Last year they lost in the first round, then they lost in the regional finals. They've never been that good. But I do feel like they can beat Michigan State and go to the second round. Boogie Ellis is just so good. I don't remember. Oh, yeah, he used to go to Memphis. Then he transferred. Then you have Drew Peterson. He is amazing. I'm really high on him. Trey White as the freshman wing. Then Reese Dixon Waters and Joshua Morgan. I think that team can beat this Michigan State team. If you look at Michigan State, they have a good team if it will let me select them. They have a good roster that has produced this year, but I just don't think Tom Izzo has struggled in recruiting and getting teams together this year or the last few years. This year they got Tyson Walker, Joey Hauser, the brother of Sam Hauser on the Celtics, AJ Hogard, Malik Hall, and Sissoko. I don't know how to pronounce his first name. But this will be a really good matchup. I know that it will be the case. I just don't like Big Ten teams this year. I don't think that they have that same firepower that they do the last few years. Now we have Marquette in Vermont. Marquette will win this game. Vermont's just such a good team to watch. Such a sleeper team each year, but they always get messed up with a bad seed. And now they'll have to play Marquette. They lost to St. Mary's by 26, lost to USC by 2, beat Colgate by 1, lost to Iona by 21, and lost to Yale by 29. I can't pick a team that's lost to that many schools like that many times. Next up, we have Houston versus the Northern Kentucky Norse. I watched Northern Kentucky's championship game for their conference, but I just don't think that they are good enough to beat Houston. Obviously, probably they won't, but you never know. They have Marquise Warwick, and I know that Marcus Sasser will be back for this game because they said that it was just precautionary that he was sitting out. So I think that I have to go with Houston here if Sasser is in fact back. Next up, we have Iowa versus Auburn. Iowa led by Keegan Murray, last year's lottery pick's twin brother, Chris Murray. The Auburn Tigers led by center Johnny Broome. Broome has been amazing this year after transferring in from like Middle Tennessee State or something. I don't think anyone knew or thought that he would ever be anything special this year. But if you look at Broome's stats, Bruce Pearl has turned him into an amazing center. 14 points, 8 rebounds, and an assist per game. Wendell Green, 14, 3, and 4. He was on that team with Jabari Smith Jr. last year. Then they have Jalen Williams, 11 and 5 per game. I really, really like this team. I might be a little bit too high on them, but me personally, I think that they can go on a run to the Final Four if they can beat Houston, which will be a challenge. But if you look at Iowa, they have great depth, but Chris Murray is the only true star on this team. I can't go for Iowa. I have to go for Auburn in this game. It'll be a good matchup, though. It'll be fun to watch. Good defense, good rebounding for both teams, good scoring with Chris Murray versus Johnny Broome. That'll be a matchup for sure. So if it will ever let me close out of this, I will be choosing Auburn for this game. Hello? There we go. Next up, we have something that I have seen a lot of people voting against Miami in an upset here. But let's see this. Miami versus Drake. Miami lost to Duke in a weaker conference. Let's move this over here, actually. Hello? Okay, whatever. They lost to Duke twice, beat Virginia by 2, lost to Maryland by 18, beat and lost to North Carolina State, beat Clemson by 4, and beat Providence by 10. They are a good team, But Drake, who has lost to Bradley once and Mississippi State, they beat. I like them as a team. They are led by Tucker Devries, an NBA draft prospect. He's a sophomore this year. He's a good shooter. Hello? He's a really good shooter. I didn't even know that his dad was the coach. It seems like now everyone's just going where their dad is the coach. You have Antoine Davis at Detroit Mercy. You have Tucker Devries at Drake. And I think Patrick Baldwin played for his dad at, where'd he go? Milwaukee last year. So if you look at Drake's roster, they are led by Tucker Devries, 19.6 rebounds and 2 assists per game. Roman Penn, and then that's about all I know. I just know that they're a good team. And then you have Miami, who last year they had not that good of talent. I think they made a run to the tournament maybe. But this year they have Nigel Pack, who transferred in from Kansas State. He's been decent this year, not that great. Then you have Isaiah Wong, who's been amazing. And Norchad Omier, they're big. That's going to be a shootout, but give me Drake in that matchup. Kent State and Indiana, and every single YouTuber I've seen that's had a good bracket in the past, they're all going for Kent State with Sincere Carey. I forgot the YouTuber's name, but I think one of them had the Kent State Flashes or whatever they're called, I forgot, going to the Sweet 16. Of course, Indiana is led by Trace Jackson Davis and Jalen Hood Schifino. I really like that duo between the point guard and the big, but I just don't think that they can get it done with everyone voting for it against them. I really, really like Kent State with Sincere Carey. I was high on him last year in the tournament. I thought they could make a run with him. They didn't. But this year you have Indiana, Miller Kopp and Race Thompson are their forwards. You have Tamar Bates. That's their starting five right there, I think. Hood Schifino and Jackson Davis are great. Jackson Davis will be a first-round draft pick, I think. Hood Schifino will also probably be a first-round draft pick, but that doesn't mean anything, I don't think. Because if you look at who they're playing, this Kent State Golden Flashes team or whatever, I think that's what they're called, but I'm not completely sure. Yeah, there's a Golden Flashes, but they are led by Sincere Carey, Malik Jacobs, and Jalen Solinger. That team is really good. This game might just be decided by who has the ball last. I think it might be that close of a game down the stretch. So let's see. I think Hood Schifino might be a good enough defensive point guard. He's really athletic. He might be able to guard Sincere Carey. And I don't know if Kent State will have an answer for Trace Jackson Davis, but I think that's the reason. I think I have to go Indiana just because I don't think that Kent State will have a person that can stop Jackson Davis. Then you have Mississippi State versus Pitt, the winner plays Iowa State. And so here's my thing. I feel like this year the first four teams are terrible. I feel like if you would have had Clemson in there and then Oklahoma State in there, that would have been so much better. But then you have Mississippi State and Pitt, and then I don't even know who the other ones competing for an 11 seed are. Arizona State and Nevada. There aren't any good ones. And just for that reason, Iowa State is such a good defensive team. I can't vote against them against Mississippi State or Pitt. Then you have Xavier and Kennesaw State, and now I hate Xavier in the tournament, especially without Zach Freemantle. But they have Sully Boom and Colby Jones. I know is an NBA draft prospect. He's really good. He's been really good this year in college. I can't vote for Kennesaw State. They're an extremely weak team. They could have got a 16 seed and no one would have cared except for their fans. This one is the greatest game in round one. Penn State and Texas A&M. This is going to be a great game for both teams. Penn State went on that miraculous run in the Big Ten tournament, or else they wouldn't have even made it to the tournament at all. They lost to Purdue 3 times. They beat Northwestern twice. They lost to Rutgers twice. They beat Indiana twice. and they beat Illinois twice. For Texas A&M, they of course beat and lost to Alabama, beat Tennessee, beat Arkansas twice, beat Auburn twice, beat Missouri twice, and lost to Kentucky by 9. This will be an amazing game, but Texas A&M, I don't know who they have in that starting five. I don't remember exactly who's on their roster, but I know that the guard play of Penn State is outstanding with Jalen Pickett, the transfer from Siena, in there. So if you look at Buzz Williams' squad, Wade Taylor is the point, Tyrese Radford is the 2, and then Henry Coleman is the big slash forward, and then Julius Marble's also in there with Dexter Dennis. I feel like if Texas A&M wins this matchup, they don't have that good of depth to make it past the first round, maybe. But let's see. Penn State has Jalen Pickett. Texas A&M, give me Penn State. Let's have an upset here. And then Texas versus Colgate. I know some people are saying that Texas, there's just a weird vibe with them. They might not make it. But Colgate's not going to be the one that beats them if they do get beat. Tucker Richardson, I know he's been good. I saw an article about him. I decided to read it. He has been really good this year. But Texas, Tyrese Hunter, Timmy Allen, Sir'Jabari Rice, Marcus Carr, Dylan DeSue, all those guys are not going to be able to be stopped by Colgate. Now the last region we have to finish the first round for is the West. Kansas over Howard. Then we have Arkansas versus Illinois. Illinois is led by, I don't even remember who's on their team, but I know Arkansas with the super freshman lineup of Jordan Walsh, Anthony Black, and Nick Smith. I'm not voting against them this year. I think that they have a good chance to go over to here if they can beat Kansas. Then we have St. Mary's and VCU. St. Mary's is not losing to VCU. VCU is extremely weak as a 12 seed. They're led by Adrian Baldwin and David Shriver, whatever his name is. But they aren't going to beat St. Mary's. That super scoring lineup of Logan Johnson, who else is in there? Adrian Mahaney. Who's the other one? I'm thinking of one other person, but whatever. They aren't losing to VCU. UConn and Iona. UConn I really like. No, I'm kidding. This is not even going to be a close game. Rick Pitino and his squad will not beat UConn with Andre Jackson, with Adama Sinago, with, I forgot who else they have, but they are not going to win that game. TCU and Arizona State or Nevada. So here's the thing with TCU. Their coach got some criticism because their star center, or not star, he wasn't even that good, but he was dominant center. Eddie Lampkin Jr. was saying that he was making comments and stuff. So he decided to leave the team, their starting center that was really dominant, especially on defense. But I don't know if that's enough to impact it. I think they were starting Jacoby Coles at center the other night in the Big 12 tournament, who was normally the sixth-man power forward player, I think. If you look at their team, I think winning the first 4 game will be Arizona State, because they have Will Baker, the former Texas player, as their center. He's amazing. So Jamie Dixon's team, Mike Miles and Emmanuel Miller, yeah, their guard play is unmatched. I know, I don't remember their names, but Nevada has 2 really good tall guards, but I don't think that they'll be able to stop Damian Bowe and Mike Miles, who will both probably be selected in the NBA draft this year. It's going to be a tough matchup, but I can't vote against TCU. I have already said that the Big 12 is the toughest conference in the entire NCAA, so I can't really vote against them now. Gonzaga and Grand Canyon, that's not even a question. Gonzaga led by Drew Timme, Nolan Hickman, Rasir Bolton, Anton Watson, all those people, they're not losing to Grand Canyon. I know Grand Canyon was really good a few years ago, but then one of their players unfortunately died in a car accident. May he rest in peace. But I just don't think that they can get it done. Now we have another matchup that will be a close game, and I don't know who will win it. Boise State and Northwestern. If you look at Northwestern. Ty Berry is a really good player. Chase I don't know how to say his name, but he is good as well. I know that. I don't remember who was on Boise State's team. I know who they had last year. I know they had like a few decent forwards and bigs and that kind of stuff. I think they had a good guard, maybe. Well, if you look at their roster, let's look at their roster. Leon Rice's school. They have Max Rice. I know he was there last year, I think. Marcus Shaver, I know, was there last year. He was really good. And Tyson Degenhart. I think they lost their center that I was thinking of. But then if you look at, I forgot who they were playing. Who were they playing? I forgot. Come on, hurry up and load. So, Boise State, good guards, really good power forward center type player. I forgot who they're playing now. I was gonna look at their Northwestern, who was really surprising in the Big Ten this year without Pete Nance, Larry Nance Jr.'s brother, who left for North Carolina. North Carolina, the reigning I was about to say reigning champs. The reigning national championship appearance team didn't even make the NCAA tournament, even though they got better, adding Pete Nance and everyone. But Baycott was not very good. RJ Davis was not that good. Caleb Love. But I still feel like that trio there, Love, Davis, and Baycott, will probably all get their names called in the draft, but Baycott for sure will. So then if you look at Northwestern, I know Boo Booey or whatever is how to say his name. Big Ten is weak this year. I've said that already. But Northwestern will not go down to Boise State. And then UCLA, no questions asked. Without Jalen Clark even. They have Jaime Jaquez. They have, I don't even know who else. Tiger Campbell and Adem Bona. They aren't losing to UNC Asheville. Next up in the second round, Bama and West Virginia. Bama is such a good offensive team, and West Virginia is such a good defensive team. So this game will just turn into if Bama can play good enough defense to stop West Virginia's offense with Trey Mitchell, with I forgot their guard's name, Joe Toussaint, with Eric Stevenson. And I think they should be able to. I don't think that they're going to go down to the 9-seeded West Virginia. They're a tough team, West Virginia is. But Brandon Miller, even though he's had a lot of controversy this year, and Noah Clowney is just such a good rebounder, that I don't think that they can lose this game. This will be a good matchup, though. I feel like West Virginia is a sleeper team to get to here or even here. Whoever wins this game is going to here because I don't think San Diego State or Furman can stop West Virginia, and I know for a fact that neither can stop Bama. So this is an interesting game. I feel like West Virginia could win this game. They average less points per game. They were worse in their conference. They have a worse rank. They're worse versus top 25, and they have a worse opponent points per game. They lost to Purdue, lost to Kansas, beat Iowa State. Okay. Alabama has to win that game. Next up, we have San Diego State and Furman. Furman is a team that I would like to see go farther, but I feel like Jalen Slauson and the Paladinians, or whatever their name is, can't beat Matt Bradley and whoever else San Diego State has. It's going to be a good game, I feel, with two teams that no one would expect to go to here or anything. The winner of this goes to the Sweet 16, and I feel like I can see San Diego State there way more than I could see Furman going to the Sweet 16. So let's go San Diego State. Creighton and Baylor. With Creighton and Baylor, it's all going to come down to matchups. You have, I forgot Creighton's point guard, but LJ Cryer is Baylor's point guard. Creighton has somebody. Shooting guard, you have Flagler and Trey Alexander. Small forward, you have Keontae George and their forward, I forgot his name. I can see his face, but I can't remember his name. I feel like I remember. Yeah, I remember Baylor's starting five. What did this just do? Hello? There we go. Okay, so Baylor's starting five is Cryer, Flagler, George, Jalen Bridges, and Jonathan Chama Cha or whatever his name is. So if you look at them, it's going to be a matchup of Farabello, the former TCU guard, versus Cryer. I think Baylor wins that. Alexander versus Flagler. Baylor wins that. Shireman versus George. I think Shireman has more experience, so I feel like he will be able to outscore and guard George better. Power forward, you have Kaluma versus Bridges. Creighton wins that. And then Creighton also wins at center, I feel Creighton will beat the more unexperienced Baylor in this first round matchup. Or I meant round of 32 matchup. I don't think Baylor's going to win this game. I feel like no one else is going to pick them, so why not? Let's just be different. Creighton over Baylor in round 2, if this will ever pop up. There we go. So let's just do this a little bit faster. I know this is taking a long time. Utah State and Arizona. I already said how much I like Arizona in this tournament. Purdue and Memphis. Kendrick Davis versus the Purdue team. I feel like Kansas might go down to Arkansas, and this is also a good matchup, 1 versus 8. I feel like I have to pick one or the other, Kansas or Purdue, to lose. And I feel like the team that I'm going to pick to lose is Purdue. Memphis has been amazing lately, and if Zach Edey becomes inconsistent or he doesn't show up to play in the first quarter or first half, then Purdue is done for. Duke is over Tennessee. Then you have Kentucky and Kansas State. Give me Kansas State here. I don't know if that's a good pick or not. But if you go down the matchups, you have, I know this doesn't mean everything, but you have Cason Wallace Severe Wheeler versus Marquise Noel. Marquise Noel wins that. You have Desi Sills versus Cason Wallace. Kentucky wins that. Small forward, you have Keontae Johnson versus Jacob Toppin, maybe. Give me Johnson on that because he's National Player of the Year favorite, or finalist, I meant. Power forward, you have Naqueen Tomlin for Kansas State, and I forgot who Kentucky has, so just, I don't even know. And then Sheboy versus David Nagusin. Give me Kentucky for that matchup. I don't know. This is going to be tough. Kansas State has a worse defense by 1 point per game. Kansas State's way better versus top 25 schools. They were worse in their conference by 1 game, and they averaged more points per game. Give me Kansas State. I know they struggled in the Big 12 tournament, but I feel like that is a matchup that they can win. Next, we have USC versus Marquette. I think USC can win that. It's Olivier Maxence Prosper for Marquette versus USC, who we looked at earlier. I gotta go Marquette here. Everyone is saying that they can make a deep run in the tournament. So let's just go with them there. Next, we have Houston and Auburn. I gotta go. My gut is saying Houston because I feel like Jerace Walker can overpower against any Auburn players, but Johnny Broome is there. I might have to just go with my gut and pick Auburn, even though Actually, never mind. I gotta go Houston here. I can't have 2 1 seeds fall in the round of 32. That's not something I think will happen. Drake over Indiana. I feel like Drake is my Cinderella story team with Tucker DeVries. Indiana will be a really tough matchup, but this is my bracket. I'll just do what I want to do at this point. Iowa State and Xavier. I do not like Xavier. I already said that. I've already said that the Big 12 is the best conference in my opinion. This is the best defensive team in the country. Iowa State is. But then you have Xavier. They're a 3 seed for a reason with Colby Jones. I don't care. Give me the defense of Iowa State. And then Texas A&M and Texas. Texas, they have to win that. Texas A&M, I don't like them as a team, but Penn State, I feel like won't beat Texas A&M. You know what? I'll just swap that out. Penn State over Texas A&M, or over Texas A&M, yeah. And I still don't think Texas will win or will lose to Penn State either. Next, we have Kansas and Arkansas. This will be a tough game for Kansas with the super young Arkansas team. Markel and Makai Mitchell, super defensive players. Then you have Nick Smith, Anthony Black, Trevon Brazile, and Jordan Walsh. Give me Arkansas. That is something that no one else will pick, but Arkansas is a good basketball team. I just named their starting 5. It is one of the best starting 5s in the country, in my opinion. They just were, I think, too young to win in the regular season. But I feel like if they can put it together in the tournament, get some momentum, win in the round of 64, then go into the round of 32 and have momentum. If Kansas has like a close-ish game against Howard, which I think that they will, then I like that for them. I feel like they can win that game. Next we have St. Mary's and UConn. St. Mary's is so underrated, but UConn is insane. So give me UConn. I just can't vote against them. I feel like they're going to the Final Four at least. TCU and Gonzaga. Of course, TCU doesn't have a dominant big in the paint anymore, so Drew Timme might be able to dominate. Timme was not that great in the regular season, as far as I can remember. So give me Gonzaga anyway, though. Northwestern and UCLA. I love UCLA this year. Next, we have Bama and San Diego State. I gotta go Bama. We have no 1 seeds remaining. That's the only way I can get a decent bracket at this point. And then I already said I love me some Arizona this year. Memphis and Duke. That's gonna be an interesting matchup. The Tigers versus the Blue Devils. The Blue Devils are so young, and Memphis is a good team. DeAndre Williams, Kendrick Davis, other people. But give me Duke. I can't vote Memphis there. Marquette and Kansas State. This will be a close game. Kansas State is one of my sleeper teams, but they are not. It's a first-year head coach. He is not. There's no way that they get past Marquette in this game to go to what, the Elite Eight? Yeah, they ain't going to the Elite Eight. I'm sorry to them, but it's not gonna happen. Okay, so next we have Houston and Drake. Do I keep Drake going? I love Drake this now. Rowan Penn and Tucker DeVries. He has a 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. Oh crap. That's gonna be a good game. I have to go Houston though. I just don't think anyone will pick Drake to even go that far, but I feel like Houston will not lose to Drake. So next we have Iowa State and Texas. Gabe Kalsher and Jaron Holmes and Oson Asunyi are the best defensive team in the nation. This is the Big 12 matchup. Wait. Let's see what the scores were when they went against each other. Texas beat and lost to Iowa State. Texas has to win that. And then we'll have the future Big 12 matchup. We go from current Big 12 teams to future Big 12 teams. Then we have Arkansas and UConn. I got Gonzaga over UCLA because UCLA is missing Jalen Clark. And UConn, Arkansas. I like Arkansas, but I feel like for Arkansas, it's all about momentum since they're a young team. If they start winning games, they'll be hyped. That's just my